Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of mathematics. We've been tackling some pretty complex concepts lately, but today we're going to kind of step back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and ponder a question that's as fundamental as it is mind-boggling. What exactly is mathematics?
All right.
We're diving into the philosophy of mathematics.
That's a fascinating area because it really asks us to shift our perspective a bit. Instead of just solving equations or proofing theorems, we're examining the very foundations, the underpinnings of this entire field and really asking these questions that mathematicians and philosophers have grappled with for centuries.
Yeah, and to guide us on this philosophical journey, we're going to be turning to excerpts from Wikipedia on the philosophy of mathematics. And it seems like right off the bat, one of the big questions is this question of reality. Does math exist out there in the universe, independent of human minds? Or is it a creation of our own intellect?
Yeah, that's really the core of the debate between mathematical realism and anti-realism. So realists believe that mathematical objects, things like numbers and shapes, exist objectively, whether or not we humans are around to think about them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like they're just waiting to be discovered, just as a mountain range exists before we map it.
Okay.
On the other hand, you have anti-realists, and they argue that mathematics is a human invention, a tool that we've developed to understand and describe the world.
So if we imagine a universe without humans, would math still exist in some way?
It's a very mind-bending thought experiment, right?
It is.
And this debate actually goes all the way back to ancient Greek philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Plato, he believed that mathematical objects resided in this abstract realm, separate from the physical world. He called this realm the world of forms, where these perfect and eternal concepts exist, including mathematical ones. Then you have Pythagoras, who's most famous for the Pythagorean theorem. He saw numbers as these fundamental building blocks of reality. He really believed that the universe was governed by these mathematical principles.
Those are some weighty ideas to be grappling with back then. And it seems like even within the realm of realism, there are different perspectives on how these mathematical objects exist.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So for example, some realists, they put forth this argument called the indispensability argument,
Okay.
which suggests that the crucial role that mathematics plays in science points to this objective reality of math.
Okay.
The idea is that if math was just a human invention, it wouldn't be so incredibly effective at explaining and predicting physical phenomena.
So the fact that we can use math to model things like gravity or the behavior of subatomic particles suggests that there's something real about those mathematical concepts.
Exactly. Yeah, and of course, there are counterarguments to this view as well. One of the main challenges to the indispensability argument is this thing called the epistemic argument against realism. And this argument questions how we can even gain knowledge of these abstract mathematical objects. If they supposedly exist beyond our physical world, how can our finite human minds grasp something that is supposedly eternal and independent of our experience?
Okay, so we've got this fundamental debate about whether math is discovered or invented. And even within those camps, there's all these further nuances. But before we dive into maybe some more modern schools of thought, I'm curious about something that you mentioned earlier, this idea of math being unreasonably effective. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so that's a term that was actually coined by the physicist Eugene Wigner. And he was struck by how mathematical concepts, often developed with no practical application in mind, turned out to have these surprising and profound implications in various fields. So take prime numbers, for example. For centuries, they were just this pure mathematical injury. And now they play this crucial role in cryptography and internet security. It's as if these abstract mathematical ideas were somehow built into the universe, just waiting for us to discover their practical uses.
It's almost like we're uncovering a hidden code that governs reality. And math is the key to deciphering it.
Yeah, it's a powerful thought, isn't it?
It is.
And it really leads us to this diverse landscape of modern schools of thought in the philosophy of mathematics, each with its own attempt to make sense of this seemingly magical effectiveness.
Okay.
So let's dive into those. So we've got all these different schools of thought, right? Each with their own kind of take on the nature of mathematics. One of the, most well-known is formalism, which views math as a kind of game played with symbols.
A game? That sounds kind of strange.
It does, right? But the way they see it, formalists see mathematics as a system of rules for manipulating these symbols. You can almost think of it like chess. You have pieces, you have these rules for how they can move, and you can create all sorts of complex patterns and strategies within those rules. And for formalists, meaning of mathematical statements really comes from these rules and their internal consistency, not necessarily from any connection to the real world.
So for a formalist, it doesn't really matter whether those mathematical objects actually exist. It's more about just the internal logic of the system.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about the rules of the game. Then you have intuitionism, which takes a very different approach. Intuitionists, they believe that mathematics is fundamentally grounded in human intuition and the act of mental construction.
So instead of discovering these pre-existing mathematical truths that are out there, we're actually creating them through our thought processes.
Yeah, that's the core idea. For intuitionists, a mathematical statement is only meaningful if we can construct a mental proof of that. So they really emphasize the process of understanding and constructing these mathematical concepts, rather than simply accepting them as, given.
That makes sense to me. It aligns with this idea that math is a tool that we use to make sense of the world. And obviously our intuitions about the world would play a role in that. Are there any other sort of major schools of thought that we should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Another influential perspective is logicism, and logicism attempts to reduce mathematics to logic.
Okay.
So logicists, they believe that all mathematical concepts and truths can be derived from just a small set of fundamental logical principles.
So if we could just nail down those basic logical axioms, everything else in mathematics would just kind of follow logically from there.
Yeah, that's the logicist dream, right? Although it turned out to be much more challenging than they initially anticipated.
I can imagine. It's striking to me how all these different perspectives paint such different pictures of what mathematics is. It's almost like we're looking at the same object from completely different angles, and each view reveals something unique.
It's a great analogy. It really highlights the richness and complexity of the philosophy of mathematics. It's not just some dry, abstract field. It's this really vibrant arena of ideas where different viewpoints collide and challenge our assumptions about this thing we call math.
Now, thinking back to our conversation about whether math is discovered or invented, I'm wondering if there are any perspectives that suggest that, our human experience might actually play a role in shaping our understanding of mathematics.
That's a really interesting question, and it brings us to some fascinating theories that explore the connection between our physical embodiment and our mathematical thinking.
Are you saying that our bodies could influence how we do math?
It might sound counterintuitive, but some cognitive scientists and philosophers, they argue that our early experiences with things like counting objects, understanding spatial relationships, even just interacting with our environment through movement, that these things lay the foundation for our more abstract mathematical thinking.
Oh, wow.
For example, the way we perceive and interact with three-dimensional space could actually influence how we conceptualize geometric shapes and concepts.
So instead of thinking of math as this purely abstract realm, we need to also consider how our physical embodiment and our interactions with the world might be shaping those mathematical intuitions.
Absolutely. And it also raises the question of whether math is truly universal, or if it might be influenced by the cultures and societies in which it develops. This leads us to the idea of social constructivism in mathematics.
Social constructivism, so different cultures could have different maths.
That's the idea that social constructivists explore. They emphasize the role of social interactions, cultural norms, historical contexts in shaping mathematical concepts and practices. So they argue that math isn't simply this neutral, objective system, but it's also influenced by the values, the beliefs, the power structures of the societies that produce it.
That's a pretty significant departure from the traditional view of math as this pure, timeless system of truth.
It is. But it's important to note that even social constructivists, they acknowledge the internal constraints within mathematics itself. So, logicians and mathematicians, they still work within established frameworks, building upon centuries of knowledge and rigorous proof. However, social constructivism encourages us to be aware of the cultural and historical factors that may have shaped those frameworks in the first place.
It seems like every time we think we've got a handle on what mathematics is, a new perspective emerges to kind of challenge our assumptions.
That's what makes it so fascinating, right?
It does. It does make it fascinating. Is there any one perspective that seems to be gaining more traction than others these days?
The beauty of it is that the debate is still very much alive. There's no clear consensus. And each perspective has its own strengths and weaknesses. It's like we're exploring this vast intellectual landscape, and each viewpoint offers a different vantage point from which to appreciate the intricate beauty of mathematics.
It's like we're on this incredible intellectual adventure, and we're constantly discovering new paths and hidden trails. But before we get too carried away, I know there's one more intriguing aspect we haven't touched on yet, And that's the connection between math and language. Is math just another form of communication? Or is there something more to it? So we're back, and I want to pick up on this idea of the connection between math and language. Is math just another way of communicating? Or is there something more profound going on there?
Well, it's a question that's really puzzled philosophers and linguists for ages. On the surface, it does seem like math has its own unique language, this system of symbols and notation that lets us express incredibly complex ideas with precision and conciseness.
I mean, all languages do that to some extent, though, right? They all have their rules and structures for conveying meaning.
Yeah, that's true, but what sets the language of mathematics apart is its level of extraction and its focus on relationships between concepts. It's not just about describing the world around us. Math lets us kind of explore the underlying structures and patterns that govern reality.
So it's not just a descriptive tool. It's a way of revealing these hidden connections and truths that might otherwise remain invisible.
Exactly. Think about equations like Euler's identity, which connects these seemingly disparate concepts, like pi, e, and imaginary numbers.
Right.
It's a statement that not only expresses a mathematical relationship, but also reveals this profound harmony and elegance within the system itself.
Wow. It's like math is giving us a glimpse into the architectural blueprints of the universe.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the question of whether math is simply a language we've invented, or if it's somehow embedded in the fabric of reality itself. If it's the latter, then maybe we're not just creating mathematical language, but discovering it, uncovering something that already exists.
It's a mind-blowing concept that if math is the language of the universe, then understanding it is like unlocking the secrets of the cosmos.
Yeah, it really highlights this deep connection between mathematics and our quest to understand the world around us. And exploring this connection can also shed light on the nature of language itself.
Oh, how so?
Well, if we think about math as a language, it kind of challenges our traditional notion of what a language can be. It pushes us to think beyond words and grammar, to consider the power of symbols, logic, and abstraction in conveying meaning.
So studying the language of math could actually help us understand the nature of language more broadly.
Exactly. Yeah, it speaks to this interconnectedness of knowledge, how exploring one field can lead to these unexpected insights in another. And I think, this deep dive into the philosophy of mathematics has taken us on quite a journey.
It has. We've explored these really fundamental questions about the nature of math, its relationship to reality, and even its connection to language. And while we may not have arrived at any definitive answers, I think we've encountered a wealth of perspectives that really challenge our assumptions and deepen our appreciation for this fascinating subject.
Absolutely. The beauty of philosophy is that it's not about finding all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and embracing this ongoing exploration. And in the case of mathematics, I think that exploration can lead us to a greater understanding, not just of numbers and equations, but of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway that you want our listeners to ponder as they go about their day, encountering math in their everyday lives?
I would say the most important thing to remember is that mathematics is more than just a set of rules or procedures. It's a way of thinking, a lens through which we can perceive the patterns and structures that underlie reality. It's a language of precision and abstraction, but it's also a source of beauty and wonder.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. What does mathematics mean to you? How do your own experiences and perspectives shape your understanding of this powerful and enigmatic subject? Until next time, keep those mathematical minds engaged. And remember, sometimes the most profound questions are the ones without easy solutions.